Hey guys, so today's video is a bit different, all right? Um, as you can see based on the title, okay, I told my mother that I resent her. And today we're going to talk about what unfolded after that, okay? It's really uncomfortable being in this space, but again, I'm listening to spirit when spirit is saying you need to speak on this. More people need to see this. More of us need to witness this level of vulnerability. So that's why I'm here. Okay, so let's start with, well, let's take it back. Okay, so growing up, as far as I can remember, I was always surrounded by, family, and my mother was always present, and I do remember a lot of times my mother falling ill, and I'm sure that we can have a, session of her telling her story and her testimony and her upbringing. I believe she's working on a series for her YouTube channel to share what she's been through because she has a story. But as far as I can remember, I have had many of family members, close relatives, like even my mother herself, like, telling me stories of like how me and my brother, have took care of her, a lot. And when she was, ill and really couldn't do a lot of stuff for herself. And at that time, she's saying like we're around the ages of maybe 5, 8, somewhere in there, or 4 or 5. I might have been around 4 or 5. My brother might have been around 7, 8. Okay. Or even younger, actually. But I remember her saying that, aiding with massaging her, doing things to help wash her up, helping her wash up. And all of these memories, when it comes to that extent, is very, for me, I don't necessarily recall, but I have been told that that was the case. And I do remember, sometimes giving mom a foot massage, or, if she's in pain, helping her, rub down her leg or something. But to the extent of how she shared, I don't recall. My mother has faced a lot in her life, and really not knowing all of what she experienced until I was an adult. And she shared, you know, a lot of the things that she experienced. She grew up in the mosque, for those that do not know, under Islam. She was under that those teachings and those rules, and it was very hard and difficult for her at such a young age. And nevertheless, she had my brother first, and then she had me. And eventually, she will have my sister. My mom's heart has always been one that was big, one that was and still is a giver at heart. And she would give and give and give. And as a child, you don't process what you see in your environment the way you would as an adult. And fast forward, okay, at one point in my life, I discovered the school by the name of Milton Hershey School. And for you guys that don't know, Milton Hershey School is a boarding school. What is a boarding school? A boarding school is basically you live there, okay? You stay there, you sleep there, you reside there. And it was not a home for misbehaved children, even though now connecting dots, like at a very young age, I held a lot of anger. I had and held a lot of anger. Even my brother be like, yeah, like you would, that Hawk smash, or like my temperament was different. They talk about even me, and I know if he ever watched this, you know, I'm younger than him by like 3 years or so. So it's like me picking him up and body slamming him. And my brother is tall and big, like just, and my family telling me this, and it's just like I had so much like rage bottled up in me. And it's like now discovering where it has come from. Okay. So we'll circle back to that. So I found out about Milton Hershey School, and then literally became obsessed with the thought of going to Milton Hershey School. If you guys would like a video to, you know, dive in about my life and my experience there and what I've experienced and things like that and stories, drop it in the comments, and I will, that's definitely something that we can chat about, okay? Because that was a period of time of my life. But I became obsessed with wanting to go to Milton Hershey School, and my mother, she entertained the, you know, the thought, and we applied, and Mo got into Milton Hershey School. And I got into Hershey, and I was there from the 7th grade up until 12th grade. And I could only come home on the major holidays. My mother at the time did not drive, so I wasn't able to come home as often as other kids, because they give you things called long weekends, which is pretty much, I think you get like 4 or 5, like 5 long weekends where you can pretty much go home Friday. You know, once you come from school, your parents can come pick you up Friday and bring you back Sunday. So you spend the weekend with your parents and your family. So during my whole time there, I never used a long weekend. So yeah, I will only see my family on major holidays. So And excuse me, like I'm breathing this stuff out. It's like I'm like just like all these things is just coming up and swirling out. But yeah, it was a time. And I remember my decision on one of my major decisions on why I wanted to go to MHS so bad was to help mom. Now, we didn't grow up where, you know, we didn't have a meal, but we didn't grow up with a silver spoon. Okay. We've witnessed, experienced, times of hardship and things like that. And I remember that if I go, they provide you with clothes, shoes, toiletries, food, education, scholarship money. I'm like, this can help mom. And also it was, now looking back at it, a form of me trying to escape that environment as well at such a young age. Again, I had to be at that time around, when I found out about Hershey, around maybe like 7, yeah, around 7 or 8, something like that. But so when I got accepted, my life changed. I went to Milton Hershey. I thought it was going to be like Zoe 101 based on what I read, and I swore, but it wasn't quite that. I did live in a house with about 11 other boys. We had a couple which were called house parents, which basically, chaperone watched over the home. And I eventually graduated and I came back home. Okay. So fast forwarding into the healing that is taking place, and why I really told that story, wanted to share that story, is because there would be times where I find myself being a little snappy. And it's like, okay, where is this coming from? And, it would be directed towards my mom. And it's like, okay, like, I wouldn't like that. Like, the adult in me was like, no, like, this version of me is like, okay. But I wasn't understanding that I'm in an environment that has triggered me, or things that would happen would trigger me. And why was it triggering me? And then it finally all really have come to the surface. And this is over some time period frame of where I connected the dot that there's my inner child, me, that was holding some residual energy towards our mother. And I'm like, okay, all that I'm doing to get to the root of it and to release it. And I felt like I've done a lot, and I'm like checking myself, catching myself when it's like, when it comes out. And last night, we were having a discussion about something, and, we were both like expressing ourselves, and I just told her, like, Mom, I don't want to hurt your feelings, but I don't want to feel this no more. And I feel like I have to speak it because I understand like this aspect in me is like feeling this way. And so, I told her, I said, I don't want to resent you, but I feel like there's energy there of like residual, like some type of resentment. And, I feel like a part of me feels like you neglected me by putting everyone else first. Because there's times where, again, we lived, you know, um, we lived in homes where she was renting. It was just her house, her home. Um, then we had to move in with our grandparents at one point, and there was instances where she was blessed with some finances, and her heart, she looked out for everyone else, pretty much, helped put my aunt through school and college by, helping fund that and supporting this. And, those same people today are nowhere to be found. And so it almost feels like that aspect is like that was all for nothing. And because of her disabilities and things like that, she hasn't worked. Okay. And, it just feels like it was a lot of responsibility. And that's what that inner child of me has felt. It always felt like I had to take care of my mother, even though we love, adore our mother. But the feeling of like you chose all these other adults and people over making sure that we actually had a home that we don't have to worry about, or or you didn't set yourself up into a better position so it could be less stressful on your children as we grow up and things like that. Because again, there was an opportunity there, it was opportunities, and again, she gave all of that from her heart, but she neglected herself. So it was like I was feeling that neglect. That 7-year-old me was feeling that neglect. But also there was a sense of understanding between me and that 7-year-old me, that mom has experienced things, and that mom is, human. And, as I talked and I was speaking and I'm crying and releasing, and my mom is listening, and she apologized, and she said that she was sorry. She didn't know any better at the time, and she was only doing the best that she could, working with what she had. She had nobody coaching her, nobody teaching her, nobody really pouring into her like that. And again, for those that don't know, like the mosque, a lot of people that come from the mosque, and this is no shade to nobody, but personally, from what I've heard, it feels like, a type of cult, especially when it comes to women. They're really, it's like basically stripped of their power, and you become somebody's husband and housewife, and you're subjected to what the men say and how to move. And that was very tough for my mom. And she has escaped, ran away many of times and things like that. So we understood that, mom walked a walk. But when she apologized and we're looking each other in our eyes, and were having this moment of release and healing, and it was healing that was taking place on both ends. Because again, that part of me, I guess, always felt like I had to take care of you, even though you were the parent, and you are the parent, you're the guardian. And when she apologized, I could still feel that part of me that wanted to, it made room, opened up room, but it was still, when I asked, she said, and I hope that you can forgive me for what I didn't know at the time that I know now. And, and I asked that aspect, I said, do we forgive her? Can we forgive her? Okay, and that aspect was like, we'll work on it. We're working on it. Because in that moment in time, you got to think it's been so much that has been over so many, so long of a period of time of feeling this way. And I've done a lot of healing and a lot of shadow work, but this is the residual little goo and stuff that still be around that's coming out as we are ascending to higher dimensions, higher planes of existence here. And she was like, sometimes you just need to hear it. Like, you need to hear it from me. You needed to hear it from your mom, not from somebody else that, oh, your mom she tried her best, or, da-da-da-da-da, and da-da-da-da-da. It was like, you needed to hear those words come out of my mouth because I was the one that hurt you, and I'm sorry. And I didn't know any better. And that's where my younger aspect was a little caught up with. It was like something was still there where it was like, it wasn't understanding. Okay, so this is what... Because we could talk about it, like, okay. So, in the midst of all that, I'm like, all right, okay, hold on. Yeah, so, that was actually mom. So, in the midst of us releasing, letting go, and that part of me still holding on to, like, truly, it was still holding on to something, and then I understood. That version of me really did not grasp the comprehension that parents make mistakes. So I literally said, I said, do you remember, have you ever made a mistake? Yes. Did you mean to do it? Was it your intention to do so? How did it make you feel? And it was like, no. It was like, okay. I said, mom did the same thing. And my inner child was like, like, oh. Oh, okay. Like, oh. And so... in that moment, y'all, I felt the release, because it was like, oh, he started cheering around like, mommy make mistakes, mommy make mistakes, mommy make mistakes. And I told my mom what was happening in real time, and we just started busting out laughing, and she said, yes, baby, I make mistakes. So, in that moment, I felt that bit of me that wanted to hold on, that inner child wound that wanted to hold on, it finally understood that, yo, moms make mistakes, just like me. Oh, and when I connected that dot, I truly allowed the healing to take place, the releasing to take place. Because the adult me don't want to hold on to that. We don't want to hold on to that. No version of me wants to hold on to that. So I had to connect the dots, and I had to have the conversation. And now it was 3 in the morning. By the time I laid and touched my head down, this is healing taking place 3 in the morning. I'm beaming. I'm smiling. My mom is like, "Oh, you're even lighter in the face." And it's just like so much healing. It feels so good, y'all. Like, it feels so good. Be able to breathe that out and really be in a new space. This is the healing. This is the generational cleansing. And me and my mother healed that night. And I'm just so grateful. I'm just so grateful. Because it's like we want to let it go. And now when I tap into that aspect and surrounding this, it's really a happy child that you see in that red shirt on that thumbnail. Because I was around that age. Jumping around, mommy makes mistakes. Mommy makes mistakes. We make mistakes. And really understanding and allowed that healing to come through. And I feel so much lighter. I actually felt, so me and mom both felt some energy. She felt energy in her stomach that she wasn't feeling until we had that conversation. And it's like, you know, your body starts to detox, or your body will show you where you're holding energy or pain, or, and so then I felt a little sharp shoot, like lightning shoot out my heart. And I was like, like it kind of felt like a little hard. It's like, I'm like, but I stretched it out and it felt, and it just, the release. I felt the release, the letting go. And it felt so good. It feels so good. And this is why I had to come on here and share my story and my testimony. Because, you know, everything is not cute. I'm not on this platform to people please. I'm not on this platform to be idolized. Okay, this platform is being used for a space of healing, and a space where we can come together and heal together, where we can learn together, where we can support one another. And that's why I had to come and share this. I'm a very private individual. I'm private. Especially when it comes to things like the matter of family and self and things like that. I'm private. But this is something where I wanted to share, and You know, I want to discuss some of the inner child wounds here, okay, before we get out of here. So if you want to get a pen or, piece of paper, or I'm gonna show a picture, but I just want to read them off. I'll show it. Okay. So you can be aware of where some of that residual pain and things reside, those residual childhood wounds reside, because it's like, now I understand on why that part of me was so would be a little snappy or a little, you get what I'm saying? And it made sense because it's like, it felt like it never spoke its piece to our mother, and I had to allow it to speak its piece. And then peace has been made, y'all. Okay, so the first wound, okay, guilt wound, okay. So if you feeling sorry, or always feeling sorry, or always feeling bad, okay, doesn't like to ask for things, uses guilt to manipulate, is afraid to set boundaries, normally attracts people who makes them feel guilty. Okay, that's one of the inner child wounds, the guilt wound. Okay, the trust wound is afraid to be hurt, doesn't trust themselves, finds ways to not trust people. Now that's a big one. Feels insecure and needs a lot of external validation. Does not feel safe. Normally attracts people who don't feel safe. Abandonment wound. Feels left out. Fears being left. Hates being alone. Codependent. Threatens to leave. Normally attracts emotionally unavailable people. The last wound, neglect wound. Struggles to let things go. Has low self-worth. Gets angry easily. Struggles to say no. Represses emotions. Fears being vulnerable. Normally attracts people who don't appreciate them or make them feel seen. Now, can you guess what wound I was dealing with? Before I even found this, I told Mom, I said, I epitome felt neglected. Even though I know that wasn't your intention, but there's still feelings around neglect around that. And my mom owned it. She owned it. And she understood. And I'm sharing these with you so you can really see where, if you resonate with some of these points that were laid out, connected to these different inner child wounds, that you can start to get to the root of where they lie and how you can start going on that journey to help heal those wounds. With that being said, family, I do love you. I pray that this video assists you in some way, helps to heal you in some way, helps to break a shackle, break a cycle. And we're going to continue to elevate together, family. With that being said, peace.